What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and the most important part of your draft are the early rounds. This is where you're drafting your foundational pieces, and if you draft a bust early, you're going to have a hard time making the fantasy playoffs. So today, we want to zoom in on just the early rounds. We're going to talk through rounds 1 through 3 from both the early and later parts of your draft, and just sort of talk through my targets, where I see the tiers breaking, and just sort of my overall strategy for those first 3 rounds. And then we'll go through some mock drafts just to make sure you guys are all as prepared as possible. Home league drafts are kicking off. I know a lot of drafts are happening today. I imagine a lot of you guys are cramming at this point for your draft that's probably tonight. So let's not waste any time. If you enjoy, make sure down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
VVS stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now again, this video is general draft strategy. The first part of this video, we're going to talk through picks 1 through 6. The last part, we're going to talk through picks 7 through 12. We usually would break it up into a video series, but I think we can just sort of cover it all in one, just a one-size-fits-all for everybody. Now, when we talk about draft strategy, before we sort of zoom in on each part of the draft, let's just talk about what we're sort of doing generally. Now, generally speaking, we want to be focusing on the 3 components of draft. And we talked about this in our best draft strategy video from earlier this week, or it was like last week at this point. But we want to be doing 3 things that I cover a lot more in depth in that video. I'll try and link it up above. But we want to be targeting running backs with league-winning upside in the first 3 rounds. We want to avoid the RB dead zone in rounds 4 through 6. And we want to win the flex. And the way we win the flex is by drafting wide receivers plus another 1 or 2 on top of your flex, right? Wide receivers through the flex plus another 1 or 2 through 10 rounds. So if you're in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, that's 3 wide receivers plus 1 or 2 by round 10, so that's 4 to 5. If you're in a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league, or a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league, you can start 4 wide receivers. You want another 1 or 2 by round 10, so that's 5 to 6. 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, so on and so forth. You want to make sure you have enough wide receivers to feel good about that. Now, if you're confused as to why that is, we have other videos for that. Now, for this video, we use consensus ADP from the most common home league sites. Again, this whole video is surrounded by getting ready for home leagues here. I did a little poll. It got a lot of votes, which is pretty cool. We got like 3,000 votes on this poll. But it seems like for the most part, ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo are the big players when it comes to home leagues. So what I did, instead of taking each of their ADPs, which would have been way, way, way more easier, I took their default draft rankings, because if you're drafting on any of these sites, that's what the draft board is going to look like. Everyone's going to be drafting off of the preset ranking. So we found the average across all 3 sites, and then we went down the board and made our aggregate ranking. So that now takes us to, I inputted those, right, 101 through 112. I inputted those into Sleeper. So on Sleeper, this board is your consensus ADP from those 3 sites. And first up here, we're going to talk through picks 1 through 6 and how I'm attacking the first 3 rounds here. And this is what we're going to look at in terms of the first round for picks 1 through 6. Now, these are going to be a little bit confusing. Just a little bit confusing, but I think that's going to be helpful to sort of outline what I'm looking at here from each spot. So the white outline, right, you can see the white outline around from Jefferson through Tyreek Hill. The white outline is the pick range we're talking about. So right now we're talking about 101 through 106. And then when we come back for the other one, it's going to be 207 through 212. And then it's going to be 301 to 306, because we're talking about the first half of the board here. Anybody circled in green, smash picks in this range. If I'm in this pick 101 to 106 range, Chase and Jefferson to me, absolute smashes. Those are guys where no matter what, if it's half PPR, if it's full PPR, I am drafting those guys 101, 102 regardless. Young studs and good offenses. They are just very safe picks in a format this year, or in a landscape this year. It doesn't really feel like there's a lot of strong running back options up top. Then we have our yellow picks, or our yellow squares, which are still targets of mine, right? Like if I'm in the top 6 picks here, I'd be fine with any of McCaffrey, Kupp, or Tyreek Hill. That's that next tier for me where they're all really strong. They can break fantasy. Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp can both go over 20 points per game. Christian McCaffrey, if Elijah Mitchell was to go down, he could be the RB1 in fantasy by like 5 points per game. So that's 5 players, which takes us through 105, right? So the yellow guys, the green guys are the guys I'm looking at. And then we have the orange picks, which are your okay picks, right? I don't mind taking these guys in the top 6, right? 101 through 106, but I'm not crazy about it. Like, in a perfect world, I get one of my top 5 here. But if not, you can go Bijan. I love Bijan. Bijan would be my guy, but you can also go Eckler if he's more your speed. I will say as well, let's talk about Kelsey, okay? Because I actually don't mind Kelsey, and Kelsey gets a bump the shallower your league is. So if it's 12, instead of 12 teams, it's 10 teams, and instead of half PPR, it's like standard, or instead of full PPR, or no, not instead of it's full PPR or half PPR, but instead of, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex, it's like 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. So if it's like 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, and it's a 10-team league, you should be taking Kelce. Now, this is wins over replacement. This is just like stock wins over replacement from, I think it's South Harmon Fantasy Football. And I just wanted to illustrate how quarterbacks and tight ends get a little bit of a boost the shallower the league, right? If everybody's league is good, right, or if everybody's team is stacked, again, in a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, everyone's going to be loaded through the flex. Everyone's going to be loaded at running back. But nobody can replace Kelce, right? That arrow to the orange there, tight end, that's such a steep drop-off. For the rest of them, there's not really a big drop-off, right? Like wide receiver, running back just kind of like trails off super gradually, if you will. Whereas like Kelce, no one can replace Kelce. You can't get an edge over your league mate with Kelce, so you want that Kelce piece. It's almost like if you guys have played Catan before, like Kelce is like one of those to get a point that nobody else can get. I don't know if that's a great, analogy, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like nobody can replicate Kelce in a league where everybody is stacked and tight ends are taking a higher percentage of your lineup, right, where it's 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. You want to prioritize Kelce. Also, note on the quarterbacks, I circled the top 4. There's a big drop-off out to the top 4. So in shallower leagues, again, 10-team, 8-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex type of leagues, you want to be prioritizing quarterback and tight end. They take a higher percentage of your lineup. And when everybody's stacked, you want the players that you can't really replace. So that's just a note on Kelce. He's pretty easily like my 108 in like normal leagues, but again, shallower formats. You could talk me into taking Kelce as high as the top 5. But that's how I see picks 1 through 6 in the first round. Again, Chase and Jefferson are the guys that your mouth is watering for. McCaffrey, Kupp, and Tyreek Hill is that next tier for me. And then sadly, if you're at the 106 and you can't guarantee one of those top 5, then Bijan, Eckler, Kelce are still all good. Now, red is a void, but at the 106, 101 through 106 in the first round, nobody here is like a clear do not draft for me. Now, I will say anybody past Bijan, I guess would be red for me. Like, don't reach on anybody. Like, don't reach on us. I wouldn't take a Saquon top 6. I wouldn't take Chubb. Like, people ask me all the time, like, is it crazy to take, like, Garrett Wilson or, like, so. These are the only 8 names I'm considering in the top 6, unless if you're in, like, a really weird format. Now, moving on to the second round here. This is 207 through 212 that we're looking at here. Let's keep the pick the pick key up here. And you can see, so again, the white outline picks 207 through 212, and this is how I see it. At the back end of the second, you are pretty much praying for the green guys. You are hoping that a Garrett Wilson, an Amon-Ra St. Brown, Pollard, A.J. Brown, or Devontae Adams can get back to you. Those are all smash picks to me. Those guys go 1-2 turn in most sharp leagues. I'll say as well, they're going 1-2 turn on Underdog. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. It's like the best way to prepare for your draft, where a lot of these guys that I'm squaring in green are guys that go much higher in Underdog Fantasy, and it just gets to a point where you look up in the back half of the second, you're like, Amon-Ra St. Brown is like an 11th, 12th pick on Underdog, and I can get him at the back half of the second in my home league. So make sure you check it out. It's Underdog Fantasy, the best ball platform. It's pretty much paid mock drafts where you can put like $3 down, $5 down. You head over there, you hop in their drafts. The ADP is as sharp as ever. There's real money on the line. Everyone's 18 plus, 21 plus. And it's just not these, like, I'm telling you, these pre-draft rankings that are loaded in there, they just sort of like make bad ADP on their own. You have a lot of guys in there who auto-draft after 3 picks. You have kids in there. It's so noisy, the ADP on your sites. It's not bad to get familiar with your home league site's ADP, but you should be on top of going to Underdog, checking it out, and getting a feel for where players should be going. So you can then go to your home league and take the biggest values on the board. So promo code Ron, make sure you check that out. Link will be in the description and the comment section down below. Promo code Ron will get you a deposit matched up to $100 for your first time on the site. Now, the rest of the second round, though, again, those are the obvious guys. A lot of the time, they're not going to be there for you, right? Maybe at like the 207, you get lucky, and you can get one of the green targets here. But if not, my next target is Jalen Waddle here. Now, he's the only yellow here. I will say, Waddle's in the same tier for me as like Olave, Devonta Smith, and T. Higgins, but Waddle's much rarer. Like, Waddle's not going to make it to the third in your home league. Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, they're all live to make it back to you in the third. Waddle's not. So that's why he's yellow to me, where Waddle's a guy that if you want Waddle, you have to take him in the second. And to me, he's fine after all the greens are gone. Then we have the orange tier, which is just super flat. These are guys that are fine picks if you're picking in the back half of the second. It doesn't feel great. Like, they're not smash picks. A lot of these guys you can maybe get in the third. A lot of them, I don't really love them, right? Like, I have Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, even the QBs, Olave, Devonta, T. Higgins. Those are guys that I'd prefer to take in the early third if I could. But if not, they're fine to take there. Again, I like Olave the most out of all of the oranges, but in a perfect world, you're taking him in the third in a home league, right, Chris Olave? But if you're in a wide receiver hungry home league, then you can feel free to take Chris Olave there, and that's a very much a fine pick, if you will. Again, you should have I think you'll have choices of Olave, T, Devonta Smith, Ridley on the way back. We'll talk about the third round here, and I think you can get one of those guys to fall. Again, that's why I think Waddle's a little bit more of a target, because he's just never going to fall to the third in a home league. But you guys can also see, I do want to point out as well, we had oranges for Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was a red, or Derrick Henry is a red for me in the 1-2 turn. But if you can get Henry to fall to the back half of the second, it's all price dependent. Don't draft Derrick Henry at all times. But if Waddle's gone and all the greens on this board are gone and Derrick Henry's there at the 207 and you want to take him, go ahead. Again, I just don't like him at that 1-2 turn. So getting to the third round here, we have all of these guys are now in green. If you can get any of JT, Jacobs, Waddle, Mahomes, Olave, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts to fall to you in the early third, they are all smash picks. All smash picks. They're all guys who can kind of go in the late second. JT is a guy who's sliding a lot in home leagues right now. JT anywhere in the third, smash pick. I don't think Jacobs is going to be falling as much anymore now that he's back at practice and stuff. But yeah, we're talking about the late third right now, so that's going to be T. Higgins through ETN. Then we move on to our yellow, right? Small tier break, and I still like these guys a lot. I'll say I do have Ridley in the same tier as your Olave, Devonta Smith, and T. Higgins, but again, in home leagues, those guys go much higher than Ridley, so I made Ridley a yellow here, but he's still very much a smash pick in the first half of the third round. You also have Gibbs and Ramondre, two upside running backs here that I like that have a lot of pass catching upside. Then you have Andrews, so you can just stack an elite advantage at tight end there, which is really nice. Now, I will say, moving on from that, our orange tier is Travis Etienne. I think it's just Travis Etienne. To me, Travis Etienne's fine. I'm actually targeting Travis Etienne, but in the middle of the third, it's tough. 3-4 turn Etienne, I actually like a lot, but again, middle of the third is where it gets tough. Even early third, it gets tough. I'm not trying to take Travis Etienne from 301 to 306. I prefer taking him probably somewhere in the 311 to 405. Is kind of where I would like to take him. Now, we also have a red around Najee, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones is clear fades for me. I'm not taking any of those guys 301 to 306. If you want to take Mixon or Najee at the 3-4 turn, you can have at it, but taking one of those guys 301 to 306 feels really, really steep with what should be a lot of value on the board. You're going to be alive to get Breece Hall to fall back to you in the late fourth. You're going to be alive to get ETN to fall back to you. If you're running back hungry, you can kind of take a Dobbins in the fifth or a Dameon Pierce in the fifth if you really want to do that when it comes back around. But to me, taking Najee or Joe Mixon or Aaron Jones anywhere from 301 to 306 feels a lot like you're just, you're forcing a running back there. Now, if you find yourself with greens through the first three rounds, you've absolutely crushed your draft. Now, I do want to show 3 mock drafts. We're going to go from the 102, the 104, and the 106, just to kind of show what I'm thinking through in the first 7 rounds. So these are small mocks, just the first 7 rounds for this part of the draft. So first, we're going to talk through the 102. Let's get this pick key out of the way. First, from the 102, it says, by the way, the format. So this is half PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, a tight end, and 2 flex spots. So this is a very standard home. This is actually my home league setup. At the 102, of course, again, our green options at the 102 is going to be Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. We go Jamar Chase. If Chase went, you can go Jefferson. If McCaffrey went, you can go Jefferson, whatever. Then we come back around to the second round. I don't think this will ever happen in a home league, but it happened in the sleeper mock. So I took Pollard. I don't know if that's realistic, but Pollard is a smash green pick if he somehow makes it to you in the back of the second. And then at the 302, we could go any of T. Higgins, Devonta Smith. They're both green picks for us in the early third. So we go Devonta Smith. I don't love stacking Jamar Chase with T. Higgins. It's not really a positive. And in managed leagues, it's tough for their spike weeks to sort of match up. Where in best ball, you don't need them to perform every single week simultaneously, So we've now taken the best player on the board. We've taken the green tier picks every single time. And it just sort of led us down a very clear hero RB build. Now, we come around in the 4th round, and I'm looking at Christian Watson, Drake London, DJ Moore, but I only have 1 quarterback left in this top tier with Fields and Justin Herbert. So we take Justin Fields, knowing we can kind of just push the wide receivers past the turn. DJ Moore goes. We have our pick of Drake London or Christian Watson, so we go Drake London, which always feels good. So now we have wide receivers just one wide receiver in the flex now. We come back around to the 6th round. At the 6'11", we take Javonte. Javonte's a really nice price there, and I don't know if he's going to be there in a lot of home leagues, but if he is, Javonte's a guy who I love as like a RB2 and a hero RB build that you take in like the late 6th. You can hammer some running backs later to kind of make up for him early on in the season, like a Jamal Williams, and then by the end of the season, you have a pretty nice RB in your RB2 spot. And then we get Deontay Johnson, even in a half PPR, he's really nice there. Now, the rest of this draft, I would probably be taking minimum 2 shots at tight end, would have wide receivers through the flex plus another 1 or 2 by round 10. So we have wide receivers through the flex. I'd probably have like 1 or 2 more wide receivers through round 10. And then we're just taking 2 upside shots on tight ends, and we're just taking a bunch of shots at running back. We're mixing in like a Jamal Williams. We're mixing in some Tank Bigsby and Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, and just shooting at maximum upside to fill out the rest of that hero RB build. Now, we will go through our 104 draft here, where we started Tyreek Hill. This is a full PPR. I tried to I slightly changed each of these formats to sort of try and fit as many of your home leagues as possible, but this is a full PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league. We go Tyreek Hill at the 4th spot. Now, that's not a green for us, right? Again, green is Chase and Jefferson, but that's only going to be live for you in like the first 3 picks. Any of Tyreek Hill or Cooper Kupp would have been fine here. That's our next yellow targets there. And then we go with a rare elite QB build for me. I'm not taking a lot of Hurts, Allen, or Mahomes, and it's not because I don't want to, it's just because they just really never get to me in the late 2nd or the early 3rd where I would take them. But we're in a weird spot where usually this would be Waddle for me, right? He's the only yellow target that was available. We had Pollard gone, Wilson gone, Amon-Ra St. Brown gone. But the issue is that we already have Tyreek Hill. Now, it's not a death sentence to pair Tyreek Hill with Waddle, but I'd like to avoid it if I can. And I thought it was an interesting spot where Devonta Smith falls to the 3rd round on Sleeper a lot. So we went Jalen Hurts, tried to see if Devonta Smith would fall back to us. We go Devonta Smith. Now, we took yellow, I think we took yellow, orange, and then we took green. So, like, not a crazy start, but that's, like, pretty ideal through 3 rounds, especially in a spot where you can start 3 wide receivers at a time with 1 flex. So now just taking the best player available has led us down 0 RB. Now, this isn't just 7 rounds. I extended it to 10 because I just kind of wanted to show you guys how I land the plane in a 0 RB build like this. But then we go DJ Moore. I was cool with one of DJ Moore, London, or Christian Watson. We go DJ Moore just to change it up. We come back around, and I know on a spot like Sleeper and in a lot of home leagues, like, you have to kind of just know your league, fellas. If you know your league is going to be very wide or very running back hungry, here we just go Dobbins because we know we're going to like the wide receivers that are on the board rounds 8 through 10. So we go Dobbins, we come back around, we stack Dallas Goedert to Jalen Hurts, which is really nice there. Then we go Javonte Williams again, as in the 7th round, Javonte Williams is going to be on my team. So now we have 2 running backs that I feel pretty decent about in a 0 RB build, and we end up with this as our lineup. We go Quentin Johnson, Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman. So we took 2 running backs, we have elite QB, we have a decent tight end, we have wide receivers through the flex plus 2 through 10 rounds, and we have Dobbins and Javonte Williams. Like, this is one of the cleanest 0 RB builds I think you could pull off. If you're in a league, again, I'm not doing it in leagues where it's 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, but 3 wide receiver, 1 flex, or 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, you can do 0 RB. And this is, in my eyes, a dream start for 0 RB. Now, our last mock here before we switch to the back half of the draft is the 106. Now, I wanted to show a Kelsey team in a shallow league. So this is just a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, half PPR league, a spot where I would try and take a Kelsey a little bit earlier than normal. Again, less guys in your lineup, the bigger percentage Kelsey takes up, and the more stacked you want your starting lineup to be. So, Travis Kelsey, we take him there. I'd probably go Kupp in a vacuum, but we do go Travis Kelsey to just change it up. And then we have mid-second rounds here. We have 2 green targets available, which are smash picks, and Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. We go Devontae Adams here, but this is where it gets tough. In a format like this where it's 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, in a perfect world, you probably want 1 running back through 3 or 4 rounds. I knew, especially in these running back hungry sleeper rooms, like a Breece Hall or an ETN wouldn't fall back to me. Or no, ETN was already gone, but I knew Breece Hall wasn't making it back in the 4th. So we went Gibbs in a half PPR that felt a little bit uncomfortable to go with Gibbs. Like, we had to pass on Olave, Devonta Smith, and Ridley. So I do understand the guys who are like, taking Kelsey puts you in a weird spot, but he is also such a massive advantage in a league like this that it's tough to weigh it out. You know, if Ramondre had fallen to us instead of Gibbs, like, I would have been stoked to pick that. Again, Gibbs just wasn't the best player on the board. Like, we could have gone with a green there, right? Like, green would have been Olave or Devonta Smith. So it sucks having to pass on a green for a yellow tier, but you kind of are just at the mercy of your structure when you take Kelsey. Now, I think that we sort of landed the plane nice. We're on the way back. I debated Herbert and Fields. You could have made the case to take a QB, especially in these shallower formats, but I wanted to make up ground at wide receiver, so we go Amari Cooper, who's like never available in the fourth. He's another guy where an underdog Amari Cooper is going to be gone in like the mid-third. So anywhere he's in the fourth in a home league, I'm taking him every time. Same thing with Christian Watson. He's a fourth rounder on underdog. So now we're stacked at wide receiver. We take Tyler Lockett as well. So now we have wide receivers through the flex, +1, and then we take James Cook as an RB2. Now from here, we take probably like 2 upside running backs, like an Anthony Richardson, and then maybe like a Kirk Cousins or a Geno Smith or something. We take some more upside running backs to backfill through James Cook. And then at wide, if we didn't take a single wide receiver for the rest of the draft, I would feel fine with it. Like we have 2 elite wide receivers in Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper. Or no, not really elite, but pretty good wide receiver in Amari Cooper and Christian Watson. But Devontae Adams kind of our anchor here, and we're so strong at wide receiver, I don't feel like we really need to push the issue that much more. Now flipping over to the other side of the board, let's talk through picks 7 through 12. So we'll talk through the first 3 rounds for people that are picking 7 through 12 today. Now, same exact setup, right? We have the pick key, right, for green, yellow, orange, red. I tried to make it kind of like a stop sign or whatever. But when we're talking through picks 107 to 112, this is what I'm thinking through, all right? I think a lot of the time you're going to get a Cup or a Tyreek Hill to fall to you in running back hungry leagues. In leagues where people love to take running backs, Cup or Hill are very live to make it to you to like 107, 108, 109. Those guys are smash picks, all greens for me. I also have Bijan, Kelsey, Eckler, all greens for me again. That last tier for the guys at 106, if you can now get them in the back half of the first, they're all smash picks. Now, I will say, once those guys are off the board, my focus shifts to these next 4 players that are yellows. I like Diggs, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Pollard. Diggs and Lamb are both consensus safe first-round wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been creeping up a ton recently. We saw him go like 5th overall in like a $350 high-stakes league, I think like 2 days ago. He's someone that's really skyrocketing up boards right now as a guy who in PPR is an absolute monster. Half PPR, you can maybe wait for him in the second, and maybe some more casual home leagues. Amon-Ra St. Brown's not a guy you have to take in the back half of the first, but he is somebody that's on my radar. But it is for me Lamb, Diggs, and then Pollard as well as the guy I'm looking at. Pollard, I think, has one of the clearest legendary upside cases to finish RB1 overall. If you want to take him in the late first round, you absolutely can. And then if none of those, interest you, the board is wiped clean, and you have to pick into the next tier. We have our oranges here, which again are just okay picks. These aren't fades or anything. These are just guys I'd prefer to spend a second on. But we have Saquon, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson as all fine picks. Again, those are just guys I would rather take in a second. It just feels bad to use like a 109 on like a Saquon or like a Devontae Adams, who I know are going to be in the second round in a lot of leagues. Now, the only fades to me in the late first round, Chubb and Derrick Henry, they're both aging backs with minimal receiving upside. Those just aren't guys that I want to take in the back half of the first. Now, when we flip over to the second round, you can see we lighten up on Chubb in the second round. Again, it's all a price thing. So Chubb now becomes an orange. Derrick Henry's still a red, though, but Chubb becomes an orange. If you want to take Chubb, who's my 205, if you want to take Chubb in the early second, have at it. Again, I just wouldn't love spending a first-round pick on him and taking him over guys like Diggs, like CeeDee Lamb. It just feels like a mistake. Because I just don't really see a huge tier break from like Chubb to your Jonathan Taylor area. I have both of those guys kind of in the same tier. But again, early second, you can take them here. Now, when we move here, again, these are price dependent. So like Mahomes is also a red avoid here. And it's not that Mahomes is bad or he's going to have a bad year. It's just anywhere from 201 to 206, I'm not trying to take Mahomes. So that's the pick area we're talking about here. Again, in a dream, we get our greens right between Pollard, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Diggs. But if not, Saquon, Adams, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson are all fine picks. Now, you might get in a spot where things are all cleared out, and then my next best picks are like Chris Olave and Jalen Waddle at like 206, but those feel really ugly, so you're kind of just hoping that that's not the case. And then we have our reds, who are our fades. JT, Jacobs, and Derrick Henry are all more around 2-3 running backs for me. Like, I have a hard time taking him this high in the early second, knowing that we're going to be able to have, like Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, ETN at the 3-4 turn. I prefer not to take those running backs in the back half of the second. Now, when we go to round 3, so picks 307 to 312 here, highlighted in white, what we're looking at in the green is if any of the elite QBs, if Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen make it to the 307 to 312, smash pick. If any of Devonta Smith, Olave, T. Higgins make it there, smash pick. Now, moving on from the smash picks, realistically, the ones that are really great picks to me are Ramondre and Gibbs. Again, 2 running backs with a lot of pass catching upside that I'm comfortable taking in the third. You have Mark Andrews, elite tight end. And I have Ridley in the same tier as Devonta Smith, Olave, and T. Higgins, but he's only yellow because of scarcity, right? Like, getting Olave, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins in the late third is much more rare than a Ridley, because a lot of home leagues haven't really caught up to the community having Ridley in the same tier of those guys. Now, if all of those guys go and all of the yellow players are gone, our orange players here are ETN and Breece Hall. If you have to take ETN or Breece Hall like the 311, 312, like that's not a big deal at all. Those are both fun upside running backs with a lot of juice. You can also take Lamar, who I highlighted as orange. You know, if you want to just grab an elite quarterback, I also don't mind Keenan Allen or Deebo Samuel as like the last of the wide receiver ones that I feel good about sort of tier. And then the clear fades to me, Najee, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones. Again, anywhere in the third round, I'm not taking those guys. It feels like a force. If you want to take them in like the early fourth, if they somehow get there, you can have at it. But again, late third, those just aren't guys that I'm looking at personally. They're all running backs that don't have a ton of juice. Aaron Jones has juice, but he's in a weird spot where he's splitting time with A.J. Dillon in a Jordan Love offense. We really don't know what to think there. But Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, two inefficient guys that don't have a ton of upside. I would just prefer the wide receivers over them. Again, I don't see a huge difference between them and your like J.K. Dobbins, Damian Pierce's a couple rounds later. So I'd rather either soak up the running backs with juice here and like tons of upside, or take one of the wide receivers, a Lamar, a Ridley, and just kind of sort of go that direction. Now we also have Amari Cooper as a fade. That's just because I have a clear tier from Amari behind Deebo Samuel and Keenan Allen. Amari Cooper's never a guy I want to take in the third round, but if he's there in the fourth, you can take him. Now, we're talking a lot through sort of like what rounds I'd be down to take players. I have my top 200 cheat sheet out right now. I know a lot of you guys have home leagues out there. Make sure you check it out, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. We have a link in the description and the comment section down below. It's pinned at the top. Has my top 200 rankings for all of you guys. You can just has a checklist. You can just check off all the players. But I think one of the best things about it is for each player in that top 200, I have my target rounds for each one. So what round am I looking to draft this player? So it just sort of puts it all into writing when I'm talking through, I'll take Ramondre in the third, but I don't know about in the second. And same thing with like Derrick Henry. He's more of a 2-3 turn guy for me instead of a second. So all of that is there for you guys to use, dominate your home league with it. I also have my fades and my targets and my avoids all highlighted on there. Now, let's talk through the mock drafts, all right? So now we sort of put this into use here, and we can talk through our first mock, which is going to be from the 108 this time. And this is going to be a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, full PPR league. We start from the 8 spot, and Bijan for us is a green target here, absolute smash pick. And then we come back around to the second, and we have nothing but green options available as well. We have Wilson, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Pollard, all smash picks to me. But we go Pollard here because we haven't done a double hero RB video or a double hero RB build yet today. And I wanted to show you guys one here. And then we go Ridley, who's a nice yellow target in the late third. And then we come back around and go Gibbs. Now, Gibbs is a guy who's a yellow target for us in the late third. And he makes it back to the early fourth for us. So now he's just a smash pick. And I wanted to also make it clear, like a lot of these mocks that I've been showing recently, I've been taking 2 running backs in the first like 6 or so rounds, and that's it. I wanted to kind of show what I would do if I do take Jahmyr Gibbs in round 4, and we almost make like a robust RB sort of builds here. But we take best player available, we go Gibbs, but now we're not taking running backs for the rest of the draft pretty much. If you take 3 in the first 4 rounds, you don't have to draft handcuffs or anything. Make up ground everywhere else. So that's what we do. We debated Waller in round 5, but we wanted to make up ground at wide receiver, so we go wide receiver there. And then we just go wide receiver all the way through. So we have wide receivers through the flex here. By the time we get to Deontay Johnson, then we have another wide receiver. Or no, we have wide receivers through the flex by the time we get to Addison because we have Jahmyr Gibbs in flex. So Ridley, London, then flex 1 is Watson, flex 2 is Deontay Johnson. Then we have +2 in Addison and Elijah Moore. Now I feel like we've made up ground at wide receiver. And ideally you want 1 strong tight end or 1 strong quarterback, but in a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league, deeper starting lineup, it's not a must to have one or the other. So we punt both. We go Anthony Richardson for upside. We go Kenny Pickett behind Tim. And then we go Laporta and Dulcich, sort of hoping that we can stream quarterback and tight end and get something to figure out. But I kind of love this build. Again, this is just sort of what happens when you take 3 running backs early and you still try to be strong enough at wide receiver. You kind of end up having to sacrifice quarterback or tight end or sometimes both. But I still absolutely love this team. Like I think in a home league, you would absolutely crush out of the 108 with that. Now, with the 110, I want to show the entire thing there just to show you guys how I would land the plane. But here we go from the 10 spot in a half PPR, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league. So this is actually my home league. And Cooper Kupp making it to like the 110. He's a green target for us in the late first. I think in a lot of, especially half PPR home leagues, he's going to be there at like the 109, 110, when a lot of people are really spooked about this like hamstring issue he has. In the late first, I'm taking Cooper Kupp every time. Then we come back around. We've been taking a lot of Pollard, but we just go Pollard here. We had a ton of green targets to choose from. Pollard is the highest on my rankings list, so we go Pollard here. And then we go to the third. After 2 straight greens, we go with a yellow. Calvin Ridley's like a greenish yellow, where, again, I have him in the same tier as Olave, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith in the beginning part of the third round, but I'm fine taking, you could take him in the early third, Calvin Ridley, but he's like a smash pick for me in the late third as well. And then in the fourth round, we were looking for ETN. We were looking for Breece Hall to make it back to us. Neither do. So we just take Deebo Samuel, who in the fourth round is always a fine pick there. And then we get fifth round Christian Watson. We debated Trevor Lawrence there, but I'd rather take him in the 6th again. My target round for Trevor Lawrence is round 6. It feels a little bit steep to pay the same price on Trevor Lawrence that you paid for Justin Herbert, who I think, has just showed more in the NFL to this point, right? I wanted to go Trevor Lawrence to stack to Ridley, but prioritized wide receiver there. We come back around. We get sniped on Trevor Lawrence. So we go with the other onesie. We go with Kyle Pitts. And this is what the final team looks like once we come back around. We take Deontay Johnson. And we end up with this Hero RB build. We took best player available through the first 3 rounds. We have Pollard in there. We have Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Christian Watson. Through the flex, +1. Then from here, pretty much just hammering the hell out of running backs, right? Like going like with your Jamal Williams, going with your Tank Bigsby's, your Jalen Warrens, your Antonio Gibsons. And then taking probably 2 swings on quarterback, like an Anthony Richardson, like a Kirk Cousins, something, probably draft 2 of them. Tight end, we're good to go. Maybe 1 or 2 wide receivers rest of the way. But this is a strong, that's just a very stock Hero RB build in a home league. And then we have our last mock draft here, where we have the 112. Now, this is a 112 full PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex. A little bit more of a wide receiver sicko room here. So we come around here at the 112. And I have so much Pollard, right? Pollard is a guy that I really like to have here, but I didn't want to take him for what felt like 4 of 6 of these mocks. So we doubled up on wide receiver, because I've gotten that question before, Ron. If I double up on wide receiver at the turn, how should the rest of my draft go? This is kind of the optimal idea here. We go Amon-Ra St. Brown. Devontae Adams is a green target for us in the second round, so we take Devontae Adams. We come back around. Gibbs and Ridley 2 yellow targets for us. So now, through the first 4 rounds, we've taken best player available, and it's kind of set us up for this Hero RB build. Now, we come back around. We take Darren Waller. We take Trevor Lawrence. We stack Lawrence with Ridley this time. We have Waller, so now we have an elite tight end. And we come back around, we take James Cook. This is a very balanced Hero RB-ish type build from the 12 spot, but I think that you guys kind of get the idea here of what we're trying to do from each spot. This team looks good. I wouldn't be scared about having Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Ideally, so we have wide receivers, not even through the flex yet. So through 10 rounds, we have 3 more picks in the top 10 rounds. Ideally, 2 to 3 of them would be wide receivers to make up ground there. And then take a bunch of running back upside shots. Having Trevor Lawrence and having Darren Waller means that we don't need any backup QBs or tight ends. We can just hammer away some wide receivers and then hammer those RB2 with upside sort of profiles. But that's going to do it for us today. I hope that you guys feel prepared for these home league drafts. I hope that there was a little bit of something for everybody to take away there and use for their home leagues. Let me know if that was useful. We haven't really done a video like that or that type of style, but I think that should help a lot of you guys for your home league drafts tonight. So if you enjoy, subscribe, leave a like, and if you want some rankings for that home league draft tonight, make sure you check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. Again, on there is my top 200 rankings cheat sheet. It has the checklist on there. They're all tiered. It has my target rounds for each one. The players I'm fading are highlighted. The players that I'm avoiding are highlighted. It's all there. It's all updated as well. The Josh Jacobs news, the Jerry Jeudy injury, the JSN injury, it's all updated. It's all there. I made sure it's all good to go so you guys can crush your home leagues. And on top of that, you get a bunch of bonus stuff too, where you're going to be in the mix to be in the subscriber leagues we're running here. We do waiver wire articles every week where I tell you guys how much fab I'm bidding on players. You get my rest of season rankings, so, and when you're making trades, you know how I'm valuing players rest of season. You get my weekly rankings, so start-sit rankings, and then you also get my exclusive start-sit live streams every Sunday. You get a ton on there, so make sure you check it out, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. But if not, again, it's that time of year. Help the channel out. Leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. Comment something down below. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like like this froze. Ice cold. Oh, oh. Ice around my body like I'm